One. Looks like I got a little lag. Oh, there we are. Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is Brother John. Welcome to another edition of God Talk. And as you see, the topic or the subject is stop kidding yourself. God does not care about you in capital letters. And I guess what I'm going to start off with is a quote from Thomas Paine. People who are in the room already see it in the chat, and it is this quote: "It is a contradiction in terms and ideas to call anything a revelation that comes to us at second hand, either verbally or in writing. Revelation is necessarily limited to the first communication. After this, it is only an account of something which that person says was a revelation made to him. And though he may find himself obliged to believe it, he cannot be incumbent on me to believe it. In the same manner, for it was not a revelation made to me, and I have only his word for it, that it was made to him." That's Thomas Paine. Oh man, we're losing our theists. Oh my
Oh, it's going to
God.
be one of those hangouts.
Oh man, now we gotta speculate or something. But but hey, but I mean, I know Prescott, you and I, we have similar backgrounds, and so when it comes to these issues of revelation and prayer, um, in the end, I think it just becomes very subjective, um, and I guess maybe we'll try to get into the inner workings of, why do we do this? Maybe just to justify our beliefs or our faith or something like that, but. Um, I guess I'll go back to the quote with Thomas Paine. One of my contentions is in the Bible is that everyone that seemed to get this, you know, uh, earth-shaking revelation from God is that they were always alone. They were see Moses is up in the mountain or in the wilderness. Same thing with Jesus. Uh, Paul, I guess to some extent, even though he had some other people, but it was just for him. The dreams and visions of angels, like with Joseph and Mary, and it's always these people that are alone. And I guess this is the contention that I've always said is that pretty much we're reading these revelations supposedly given to these people, and the whole faith is based on their word. Hundreds, thousand years ago, and nothing to really, confirm it. And it's just, I guess when I was in the faith, of course, look for other reasons to justify and everything. But now I look back, I'm like, and I just think now, I'm like, how do we reason this away? Um, I don't know. Thoughts? Anybody? Anything come to mind while talking about this stuff?
Well, there's one revelation that happened publicly in history. Actually, there were two. One was before, I think, Sheba, and Sheba killed them all. And the other one was at Sinai with the Israelites witnessing 3 million people basically hearing God speak. That was the only other one, but everything else is, yeah, like you say. And we still have to take their word for it, but
Right.
I want to throw that in there.
Yeah, because once either that generation dies off or the person who had the revelation died, essentially it's left in the hands of those who believe that the revelation that their teacher or leader passed on to them was legitimate. But it's nothing that they can verify for themselves apart from, I think, apart from whatever they deduced through the practice of what their teacher taught them seemed to be true. In which case they at least can say that anything that they experienced as a consequence of the teaching that they received would, for them, confirm that what their teacher was telling them was true. Does that qualify as personal revelation, I don't know, but it would seem to me that that's how movements start and flourish. Yes?
Mm. How about the reputation? I mean, the reputation of the prophets. How does it? How is it that the people believe them? You know, it almost seems like, well, it almost seems when you read the Bible that we don't get a kind of more of a backstory so much. How do these people build such a reputation that then when they say something is from God, people believe them?
Because they'll kill you if you say no. That's kind of how it happened.
Because God told me I could.
No, they would kill you.
No. Okay. Using I guess using the source that you're using, if we're going to look at some biblical examples, what you would see, at least from the story, okay, and I'm going to say from the story, and not going to argue the reality of the story, or whether the story is real or not is irrelevant. From the story itself, usually what happens is that there is some kind of an event which the leader is involved in intimately, that helps confirm his, if you want to call it, his authority. And so in the case of Jesus, he does miracles and does amazing things, and this is proof to the crowd that he is who he says he is. Okay? Or if you were to look at the Judges, in the book of Judges or Joshua, you see battles taking place where they should have been slaughtered and weren't, and things like this. In other words, it's not just that somebody says, God told me X, Y, Z, and now you have to do that or I'm going to kill you, because that usually doesn't work that well. Usually it's God told me to do X, Y, Z, and in doing X, Y, Z, he proves to the people that that God had indeed spoken to him, because X, Y, and Z could not have taken place without some kind of intervention.
Are there any examples of revelations that caused somebody to give up their role of authority, or to harm them? I guess not harm themselves, but to do something that was in clear contradiction of their interests? Or does it always seem to align?
Moses, no, Moses.
There's the Buddha as well. Both of them shunned royalty.
Okay.
Lead your humble lives.
Okay. But the Buddha, I think, is a better example than Moses.
Jesus left heaven, and Jesus left heaven, so, you know.
That was the first thing that came to my mind, but I was like, okay.
But you thought maybe I should.
Yeah, but with Jesus, I have a hard time. Because
okay.
it's
because you're a Jew.
because
and you shouldn't have a hard time.
The role of the idea of Jesus.
Are you a Jew-hating Jew?
The idea of Jesus as being God and the Son of God at the same time is so it's so non-distinct to me, because there's no way I can't put my thumb on that at all.
It's confounded. If there's a word.
Yeah, for me. So it's to say that Jesus gave something up. I don't see that. I don't see.
Well, would you say that he didn't give something up when
I don't believe in it. It's so it doesn't.
Okay, let's say that we take the position of many of the early believers who did not believe he was divine. They actually believed he was a physical son of Mary and Joseph.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Ebionites and so on. So in this case, there's still the question of could Jesus have thwarted the crucifixion?
I don't believe that happened, though. So
I know, but we're not arguing about whether something actually happened or not. We're arguing about, or
it does matter to me, though. I'll tell you why. If it didn't happen, then then there's no actual consequences to the choices that were made. And that's why I'm asking if there are revelations that are in contradiction with the interests of the person claiming the revelations. If there was no, if it's a story, then it doesn't matter. That's what I'm going to ascertain.
Well, in which case, I think probably your position is that it's all a story, so it's all irrelevant.
Right.
But if and you're making a good point right now, because I guess one of the things I'm trying to understand is if there is a contradiction in interest, then maybe that adds validity to the story in a sense.
I think when it comes to Jesus, this is the extreme example of what you were asking, because obviously.
But it's a good point.
Hold on. He gave up his godhood, so that would be an extreme example. But something that's more feasible, say, I think we can go to Moses and Buddha, even to the point that if you're going to contend Jesus, then you throw out the whole thing. But it's more feasible that what happened to Moses or Buddha, that they would do that, because we have physical examples. It's real life in life that can't happen.
Well, I think even when we get into other biblical examples, like even Gideon or perhaps even Samson and his parents, I mean, to believe that they were quote unquote called, or that they had received some revelation that resulted in them doing something, it usually involves something that resulted in them largely being rejected initially by everyone around them. So it wasn't like the revelation put them in good standing with their community. Most of the time it did not. It did the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And it was only after they had demonstrated some kind of victory over an enemy or something like that, that then people basically came around and patted them back.
Yeah, which certainly makes sense, because if it was the other way around, then we just dismiss people as just nutcases, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, they're going to do something to establish their authority, do something great. But now that kind of power over people and influence can be corrupting, for sure.
Yeah, it either begins as you either have. I think it's more along the lines of are you dealing with a charismatic person who has a desire for power, who then makes up stories in order to manipulate people around him, and in which case we've got plenty of examples of those today, who have mega churches.
Mm-hmm.
Because it very much becomes a cult of personality, I think is what it is called. But that's often different than many of the examples. I'm not saying all of the examples, because I'd have to actually go bit by bit through each one, but it seems that many of the examples it's the opposite, in the sense that they tend not to be they're not braggadocious. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't start out that way, except for I would say that probably a good example of one who was Paul, because he actually his whole thing began as a zealot who was desirous of squashing out this new group of radical Jews, and so I could see Paul as perhaps being the exception to the rule rather than one who follows the rule, which would be the kind of person you would be warning us against.
Yeah. William, how's our connection now? You right there?
I have no idea, man. I'm trying to stay, and I keep getting kicked. If it keeps doing it, though, I'll probably just bow out.
Okay. Well, before you get kicked, do you want to say anything?
If you want to ask me anything, I missed so much, man. I just got back in a second ago. I'm hating this, that I'm missing so much. Prescott,
I would get rid of all your cookies, all your plugins on your Chrome.
Mm.
That might help.
Chrome, he's using Internet Explorer.
Oh, well, that might be why it's not Explorer. Google's pretty selfish when it comes to I mean, if you have Google, it'll work. If you don't, or Chrome, but Firefox.
Okay. I just tried to sign up for Google Chrome like seriously 5 minutes ago. I'm hoping maybe that'll help. I haven't done it yet. I signed up for it, but I haven't. Anyway, I don't want to
I guess
derail this.
in quick summary, William. I guess we're trying to. How do people who claim, revelation from God, how, right now, how they've gotten their credibility? I guess. Um,
Okay.
Eric was. Yeah, go ahead.
No, are you saying how have they maintained credibility over this time period to enough to have people believe them?
Yeah, and it could be a couple different reasons. But
Personally, I find that there's things that seem inspired, and I find that they're consistent with like what all the prophets are reporting or expressing. There's a sentiment that belongs to God that it's pretty unique in the scriptures. You can tell when it's there, and then when you read something that doesn't have it, like I don't know, say the Book of Mormon. Hope I don't piss off anybody, but it's not there. It's not. You can tell right off the bat that the personality of God that is, and there's different nuances. Like some men seem to perceive God as calling them Son of Man or Son of Man, and then various different terms are used over and over again, and I think that's part of the writer's own style. But what they're saying and what these prophets are doing, and is lining up with the character of God that's presented all throughout.
ooh, oh man, he got kicked out again. Oh boy. But he did bring up something from. I hope he comes back in here. He did bring up something from an earlier conversation I had with him, and who was in there? Lyrical Orion. She was brought up Mormon, so she was giving us a lot of backstory and stuff like that. But it brings up that I know a lot of Christians look at Mormons as this, crazy fringe group of Christianity. Joseph Smith with his tablets and his appearances from angels, and they just think, okay, like William was saying, it doesn't line up with the character of God. But my thing is, well, couldn't we not say the same thing about the claims in the New Testament? And for the very same reasons that most Jews don't accept Christianity, can be for a lot of the same reasons that many Christians don't accept Mormons or Jehovah Witnesses.
Yes, that's a good point. I have to say, sadly, that the Joseph Smith story, golden tablets, reformed Egyptian, only he could translate them. Nobody else could look at them, and he buried them out of sight before anybody could get a hold of them. So, it's like, let's try to make our own brand of Judaism.
Mm-hmm.
It took a few thousand years to get rid of an ark, but it took just a couple of years to get rid of golden tablets. Golden tablets, mind you.
Well, yeah, I'll do a little dig here for you, James. 2 tablets, Mount Sinai, scripted with the finger of God, nowhere to be found. That's get the point, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's I have a tendency to believe an entire nation of people that have lived for thousands of years. I'm more inclined to see some kind of kernel in truth in that than one man's claim, like Paul or, I mean, even, but at least Buddha could teach people what he learned,
Well, Buddha did not require any specific acceptances that were not, I guess, intrinsic to the person, him or herself, did he? he didn't require people. He wanted people to look internally, not to necessarily follow. Isn't that correct? Or am I wrong about that?
Sounds reasonable. My little girl was in here screaming, so I couldn't directly answer.
Okay.
Sounds reasonable, definitely.
Rabbi, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to tell a joke. Rabbi Tovia Singer said, asked, why did God create Mormons? So Christians would know how Jews feel.
Oh God, that's funny. That is funny.
Yes, I remember seeing that. Yes, you're right. Yes.
That is hilarious.
All right, on with your point, Eric. That's about all.
I just think that it's a different with Buddhism. You know, I'm into mindfulness and mindfulness meditation, and that sort of is the practice of you know, it's the meditative practice without any spiritual requirement. And I essentially see it as Buddhism.
It's like Buddhism says that it's more like Buddha says the spirit is hardwired anyway into your consciousness. There's nothing extra that needs to be added, you know? You don't think? Like
I don't know enough.
Mind, body, and spirit becoming one. When you in meditation, you realize this, and there is no external spiritual experience. You know.
Right.
You already have it. Just realize it.
That's the way it always came to me. That I'm not really into the Buddhist religion itself because
it's kind of like most of your internal organs you don't know are there until they get sick.
Unless it's your wiener.
Yeah, that's
internal organs. Okay, I'm not going
to. But we digress.
We digress.
Let's not go there, guys. We'll never leave.
So, James.
Yes, sir.
Would you claim a personal relationship with God?
Well, yes, but I have to say that in context because I have to look at every single particle in existence as...
Let me just clarify one thing, too, about the word personal. All right, I'm relating it as in the same essence that we have personal relationships with one another. Because, you know, that seems to be, that is the claim of some. So I'm wondering, is it that kind of person?
No, because I have to say, if I say it's my God, it has to be your God too. It has to be the same God that made the fly, and I can see, and you should be able to find God in everything.
But I think he means interactive.
Yeah, maybe, but I can interact with the wind and sail or surf. You know, I can interact with, you know, I guess it's a little solipsism there, but on a sophilistic, is that the word? We're one with the universe, you're one person in the whole universe, and it's all from you kind of a thing, yeah, I would have to say yes, but I don't really believe that. I don't know. Not like God speaks to me on a two-way radio, no. I do not believe that God speaks to me and me alone on a two-way radio, not at all. I think that everybody can hear that same song, that same voice. It permeates nature kind of a thing.
James, were you ever a Christian?
Yes, sir. I was an altar boy in the Episcopal Church. And we had a handsy subdeacon, yes.
So he wasn't a real Christian.
So you weren't a real Christian. Right?
No, he wouldn't. Yeah, I was Christian.
I guess more in the evangelical, Pentecostal, you know, those circles kind of thing.
Real Christian.
Yeah, real Christian, you know, the ones that really claim this, you know, the person. I mean, that's where I don't, because I was, you know, if you were, then I would ask if you know, had any real experiences.
No, no, not really.
Okay.
Certainly not for my religion. I mean, I've had strokes of geniuses before, but not necessarily about my religion. No, not at all. It never really happened. All that stuff happened when I actually left the church and rejected it and went and looked to elsewhere in the universe. And that's when I said, like I said earlier, then you begin to learn to see the face of God in all things. in all of creation. Then it's a different story. Then God is a whole different context.
Oh, hold on. So let me see if I understand this correctly. So what you're saying then, and I say this somewhat tongue-in-cheek,
Okay.
while you were at the Episcopal Church, you had no experience until you left. And then when you left, that experience taught you that God was everywhere, except the Episcopal Church.
No, because I would have to say, well, then why would God raise me Christian? Obviously, the church had a reason. I got to know what it's like to have a congregation, what a community felt like. You go and have a big handshaking once a week, and I learned kindness. I learned charity because we'd have food drives, and we would go to nursing homes and whatnot, and make crafts, and so it had its purpose there. But as far as like these revelations, these strokes of like, wow, I never thought of that before, holy cow, and then it sits with you for a few days and you can use it, that never happened in church context. No, sir.
Mm-hmm.
I want to welcome St. Tommy to the room. What's up, brother?
So, since he's a saint, that means he must have performed at least 3 miracles. So this is the guy you need to talk to.
Yes. Well, I don't think you ever met St. Tommy.
No, I haven't.
Oh, okay.
Tommy's a groovy soul.
Yeah, Tommy's a groovy soul.
Please do.
Yes.
Prescott's pretty groovy too. I ain't seen you in a while. It's good to talk to you, Prescott.
Well, thanks, James. Good to hear from you too.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure to have you, Prescott. I love how you choose your words so carefully. You really think them out before you say them, don't you? You do.
Well,
you do. I admire that.
No, that's actually that comes from inspiration, because otherwise I'd be fumbling all over my words, which is the norm. It's only in moments like these that I get those sparks of inspiration in which I can actually articulate what I want to say and do a good job.
And you just did it again.
This whole question of are you essentially, are you kidding yourself? Are you fooling yourself? Are you full of shit when it comes to making certain religious claims? I see so many examples where I hear people saying things and I just don't get why it's being claimed and what is being achieved by it, and how it's anything but self-serving.
An example.
A gentleman right now said he posted a video, not a video, but like kind of a GIF of 2 robots laughing at each other, and he said, "This is how I respond to atheists who are explaining evolution." And I questioned him on it, and I said, this is a problem with religion, where it's becoming really, it's an ugliness and a lack of interest in opposing views that are killing religion and are the reason that there's fewer adherents. And he went on a whole big thing about God, and then at the end he said, the very last sentence, he said, "God has changed me and no man can deny that." To me, that's like a passive-aggressive load of shit. It's like, who cares? What does that even mean? It's like saying there's nothing you can do about it. Well, what does that say about you? That you shut the door to that point and have to explain that. Why is it important for you that I know that? Why is that? It's the same thing with "I'll pray for you." Why is it important for, when it's said in a context of authenticity, I can understand it. Your family, somebody in your family is sick, and somebody says, "I'll pray for you." I know that they don't mean that in a condescending way, but after an exchange, a heated exchange where somebody says, "I'll pray for you," what they're saying is, you're going to hell, and I'm going to invoke my faith into the judgment of you by me. and I ask people why it's important to them that I know that they're going to pray for me in that situation. This is the same thing to me, and it's like saying I'm going to pray for you, neener neener neener. It's like that kind of really childish implication of I have
It
control.
Mm-hmm.
okay. In a nutshell, would you call it spiritual pride?
Pride?
Vanity.
Well, pride,
No,
pride,
I call it. It
pride.
might be your words for it, and it might be the same thing.
No,
I
well,
call
I'm saying pride cloaked in spirituality. So,
well, pride is a word that I'm not. I don't think it's about being proud of something. I think it's about being inflexible and needing to feel superior or feel like the judge and not being and that you're in a position of judging somebody. And that's not something that I would think any person that follows a righteous God would want to promote.
It's
all right,
also fear.
I think
Fear.
I got you. Okay, yeah. I was just gonna say same. I was gonna say we've got a couple, Christians in the room. St. Tommy and Neil, welcome. Yeah, St. Tommy, go ahead, man.
Fear, fear. A lot of people say stuff like that. It's aggressively uttered and uttered out of fear. If I make a statement 2 + 2 = 5, and you say it's 4.1, it can be very fearful, and then it can compel me to say something aggressively, fearfully, out of
Mhm.
fear, like I am obligated to correct you or something. And it's fear. A lot of it's fear.
Another thing is where if there's opposition to what somebody is saying, I'm going to say that it's. I find it a lot around faith. This is also fear, by the way, Tommy. I find people saying, "Well, you're bullying me, or you're attacking or persecuting." What are you talking about? You're in a public forum, and you're telling people about the universe that they live into, and you're telling them based on your faith that they are wrong and you're right, and in hearing opposition, you position yourself as a victim. I'm sorry, that does not fly. But I agree. I think that's fear also.
Good old
Mm,
fashioned persecution complex. You
mm.
know, get that emotional reassurance from people attacking. Oh, I got attacked. You're evil. I got attacked. That means I'm good. Ooh.
Mhm.
Well,
Tom. Oh, go ahead, Prescott.
I was just going to say, but sometimes even a person saying, "Well, I'll pray for you," can also be an indication of awkwardness, of sometimes not knowing what to say. Because usually, when you're saying something like that, it's usually because somebody's in the middle of a situation. So,
Right. Well, when that's the case, that is separate from what I'm describing. I recognize what you're saying
yeah.
completely.
Well, the reason why I say that is that there can be uh, people are different. There are lots of differences between people in which uh, the same words can mean very different, or it can come from very different places. Like even the thing about the persecution thing uh, tends to come from people who whose most of their lives is deeply entrenched in their church, and they
Hmm.
tend to address life events in the language that they know and understand through their church experience. And words like persecution are words that are used to describe the things that you should expect if you believe to be done to you by the unbelievers. And so if an unbeliever does something, they're just expressing that in terms that they understand from their religious background. Uh, but it's but it's very easy to take that word persecution, for example, and see that as some kind of like they think there's some kind of super Christian or something like that, when it might not be It might not be from a point of arrogance or pride. It can be just for them. It can be as simple as that is how they understand.
I don't think
and
it's
to,
I
and
don't
to,
think that's arrogance or pride at all. What I think it is the opposite. Actually, I think it's um, in they want to be the meek. It's being a victim. That's not about arrogance. A person that's arrogant is more likely to be a bully, I would think. That's not. It's positioning oneself as not being at all responsible for the opposition. It's also exaggerating the
but it's
opposition as a threat.
yeah, what I think it's hard. I think it's going to be a little bit harder for you to understand, Eric, if you don't come out from that environment and the language that is spoken.
It's
That
learned.
Prescott,
Yeah.
that
Yeah, we
Prescott is
do
saying.
because we're the ones
So,
who have been persecuted by you atheists,
mhm.
so we know what it means. You don't.
Well, I think that's true to a degree. By the way, I do. There's in I grew up in a synagogue. We
Oh,
were persecuted by Arabs, but that's different. It's different and it's similar. It's a Venn diagram. There's some crossover but every situation is unique, and I think the language that we learn growing up is the language that we tend to use until it's replaced through attrition, essentially.
And mm, and I just want to express here the differences here when we're saying when you hear I think there was a little bit of confusion when someone says I'll pray for you. I think Eric, you were saying in the context, someone you're telling them about your unbelief and everything, and they're saying I'll pray for you. But you do have the other context where usually among believers, and as Prescott was saying, we don't know what to say sometimes. Someone's going through a very difficult thing. They lost somebody. Um, and so to say I pray for you is
To
kind of
offer
giving
comfort.
it's like giving it's a comfort, giving an
Yeah.
emotional hug in a way, a
Yeah,
hug
that's
there.
why I
Mhm.
qualified that at the beginning. If
Okay.
somebody is sick and somebody wants you to feel in touch, either with them or with something that will bring you comfort, that's different. I don't have a problem with that. You know, that I totally think that's a clear expression of kindness.
How do you think
What
it feels for a person who comes out of that tradition and they talk to somebody who's still in that tradition, and you want to say something like, my condolences, and they're looking at you like, I want you to pray for me.
You know what? I don't know. It's a great question. It's a really, really powerful question. I don't have an answer. I can't even begin.
Well, here's my answer to most of this, and that is that get over it.
I say you're in my thoughts. I'm thinking about you. If there's something I can do, let me know. If they say, "Will you pray for me?" I will tell them I'm sorry that I wouldn't be authentic.
It's
I
very
will.
strange. I get Facebook, and you hear when someone loses somebody, they post it and everything, and you see all the comments. I'll pray for you, and
You know they're in hell. But.
They're in a better place and stuff. And I always find myself, really choosing my words wisely because, I'll do
It's a
like
tough one.
Eric said. My thoughts are with you, and you keep their memory alive by thinking about the good things about them and sharing the memories you had, and that's how you kind of keep them living forever in that sense. So I'll share something along that line. But I always find in the background, all that past and all those other things, it would be so easy.
Sure.
I'll pray for you. Thank God they're in a better place. And all right, have a good day.
How about that, Roy? That Roy update. Yes, Roy.
No. We're not going there, Tommy. I don't want to derail here. Okay, with drama. No, it's not going to happen.
But I think that's a really good point. And also when you are interacting with a person of faith that is in despair, what is the boundary? What is a reasonable boundary? And how do you navigate in the best way possible through that? I think it's a valid question.
Damn Tommy. Couldn't take the rebuke. Oh, man, I thought he had thicker skin than that. Really? Come on. And I wanted to have address the question about prayer. So Neo, man, you're gonna be in the hot seat here.
Am I the only Christian here?
You're the only Christian here.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Neo, yeah. So Neo, how do you feel about what I was just kind
I
of
don't
saying, though?
feel like being picked apart by atheists right now.
Okay. About a theist and a deist.
Well, what if somebody I'm saying hypothetically, let's say you're in despair, and somebody who you know from your history who may not be religious anymore wants to express a condolence, but they're not praying for you. Does that make you feel uncomfortable? And there's not a right or wrong answer, because how you feel is how you feel.
Not at all.
Okay.
I mean, I still think it's in there. I look at people differently.
Okay.
It's still in there somewhere. They're just,
They're just in denial. And
Now, Neo, you've posted quite a few scriptures.
Oh, I
here
was
in the
just
site.
going off of what you guys were talking about.
No, I totally understand it. But I will pick apart this last one that you've chosen.
Yeah, that's not a great one, sorry.
It is in the Bible. How could it not be a great one?
Well, what we were talking about. So.
Okay. Well, for our audience, I'm going to show you. You shared James 5:15 and 16, and I've heard different interpretations of this when I bring this scripture up in referring to a prayer for the sick. And as the scripture says, and the prayer offered in faith will make the sick person well. The Lord will raise him up. If he has sinned, he will be forgiven. Therefore, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous man is powerful and effective. I think it also says in that chapter about if anyone's sick among you, bring a couple of elders. Is that in the same context?
No, that would only be a certain kind of sickness.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, my question, Neo, is this scripture? How do you interpret it? Is it for today, or is it just for then, or is it taken out? You've seen it taken out of context. We'll put it in context for us.
I'm just trying to get you to read the Bible.
Yeah.
I don't like placing certain things at certain events at certain times. I mean, I understand some of it happened historically, but a lot of these scriptures to me bleed on all throughout life. I find myself in the Bible a lot of times whenever I read it, I'm like, that could have been me, or that's somebody I know, or that happened to somebody else, so it's not like this is just for certain people. Now, there are scriptures that are for certain people, but
Do you believe this promises for today?
You mean this scripture particularly, or altogether?
Do you believe that a prayer offered in faith can heal a sick?
Yeah. I mean, I've seen it happen, so.
I think that we have far more control of our sicknesses than we might be let on. I really do believe that we have the power to make ourselves better.
And if you don't think you're going to be sick, you're not. If you think you're going to be sick, you're going to be sick. That's what the doctors say anyway.
So my question, Neo, is if you're praying for someone who's sick and they don't get healed, is it because of a lack of faith?
It's all according to God's plan.
Okay. Now,
I'm looking. Which verse is that in? Is that in 15 or 16?
James 5:15 to 16.
Yeah, but the part about according to God's plan.
Oh, you're asking Neo.
Well, I think the point that you were making, Brother John, is that that it's fairly clear in terms of what you are supposed to do and what you are to expect to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And when it does not happen, what is the explanation based on what the verse is compelling you to do?
Exactly.
Scripture having to do with God's plan. So. We could do this back and forth. I could just keep putting scripture up. You ask questions.
Yeah, but I don't see how the scripture serves a point in this conversation, though. I don't. It's almost like saying,
Well, you asked the question.
the,
You said, where in God's scripture does it talk about God's plan according to God's plan? So that's
I'm sorry, I missed that. I'm sorry.
Okay, but according to the verse that you cited, James 5:15-16, what Brother John was asking was, so what happens when a person is not healed? What's the explanation? And because the only explanation in 15:16 is that if you confess your sins and the prayer of faith is offered, there's only one outcome. It doesn't say sometimes you'll get healed and sometimes you won't, according to God's plan, according to God's will, and that's what brought the question.
Understand, Neo?
Trying to get there. Hold on.
Well, let's go back to, I guess, scroll back here. How far do I have to?
He's saying, what happens to people that are prayed for and nothing happens, right? Like prayer doesn't work for their sickness? Is that what it is?
Right, because, I mean, you have the language here that the Lord will raise them up. The Lord will do these things as a consequence of the faith of a righteous person. And when that doesn't happen, does that mean that the person who was praying for you wasn't faithful or righteous enough? I mean, how do we even measure that sometimes?
Yeah, we don't. That's God's job, is to measure these things.
But why doesn't the verse say that, though? Because it would have been very easy and correct.
I gotcha. There's other verses that point to things like that. So it's kind of like I look at the Bible in a bigger picture than just picking out certain verses and having problems with them. If you get my meaning.
Okay.
I think I do, but it was a question of the verse itself very clearly tells us what to expect, and it doesn't give. I'm sorry. Go ahead, James.
I thought my son just walked in. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
Sorry.
okay.
You have got to get a biblical teacher in here, not me.
Well, then we would have to bring in my biblical teacher, and not me.
See, these are just questions that I answer personally, not universally for every church and every person on the planet. So
Okay.
it's not like everybody's going to believe what I believe. So, but
Yeah, but you're the only theist in the room, and therefore we have to pick on you.
yeah. You
So
know,
we're trying to get your understanding of these scriptures.
right? Some people will make, other Christians I know will make universal statements about all Christians and all people and so on. I don't like to do that. I let the interpretation bring imagination, whatever you want to think.
Okay.
Neil, may I ask, how long are you a Christian?
5 years.
5 years. Okay. All right. See, this particular verse has very, it's very personal to me.
Hmm.
All right. I don't know if I shared my story, part of my story with you, but when I was a Christian.
I would love to hear it. Go ahead.
Okay. I won't get too much into it, but you kind of see where I'm going. All right. Late 1980s, 89. I was a Christian, very involved in the church. Met a wonderful Christian woman. We served in ministry together, music ministry, coffee houses, the such. We met in Bible study, all that good stuff. She was at the time on dialysis when I met her because she had lupus, and she had a failed kidney because she went out in the sun when she was told not to. And so when we got married, she, during that time, she was on a list. She was waiting for a while for a kidney transplant. And it just seemed at the time, she got called right after we got married. We plan on having kids, and best way, nice to have some functioning kidneys if you're going to have kids. And she really felt it was, I questioned her, you sure you want to do this? And because it's a big deal. And she felt that, it was God's will for her to have this kidney transplant. So, we can have kids and be fruitful and multiply. Needless to say, we were married only 4 months. I spent 2 months of that in the hospital, watching her slowly deteriorate, be on life support, coma, and then die.
Oh my
Okay.
God.
Yeah. So, and at that time, was standing on scriptures like this, relying on the prayers of my pastors and elders and the whole church, praying for us. I'm getting chills even talking about this story now, but because it's very this most difficult time in all my life. I don't wish it on anybody because at the time I felt like half of my whole being was ripped out. Okay. But I had scriptures like this said. I've had people quote scriptures from the Old Testament saying this sickness will not be unto death, building the faith. I had even to the moment when she died and I was with my pastors and when I was brought in and praying over her so that she would resurrect. I was even yelling at my pastors, where's your faith? And they're just trying. So you can kind of understand how scriptures like this and just to kind of just press it to the side and say God works in mysterious ways just doesn't do it for me. And I got to tell you, if anything was any time to leave the faith, it would have been at that moment, but I didn't. I stayed a number of years later on. Because some would say, well, you don't believe because you had something tragic happen to you. Well, I had something tragic. Yeah, I was pissed off at God for a while, but, I just lended after a while, is it going to build up my faith and make me stronger? And which it did. It helps me to be very sympathetic and full of empathy for people who do lose somebody. So I want you to understand the impacts of these scriptures, and we're told these promises, and that's what I'm looking at. It's a promise from God, and then you're told, if it doesn't happen, it's because you didn't have enough faith. For God's sakes.
More like His will, not yours.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Or she's in a better place now.
That's like saying
Somebody's echoing.
Yeah,
Please,
I don't. We're getting a little echo from you. I don't. What were you saying, Michael?
Everybody has their own time. We're not supposed to be with everybody forever. We don't know who's supposed to be here and who's not supposed to be here. And some people are here to teach us things in a very short period of time to be a stepping stone for what it is God has in store for us in the future. So I've always learned to relanguage things so as not to think that things were done or shitty or bad luck, whatever. There's a reason why things happen.
then there's no reason to pray.
Well, sure there is. There's Thanksgiving.
There's no reason to pray for somebody to survive, for what you want for somebody. If it's all in God's plan, then there's nothing to pray for. If there's a reason for everything, it's all predetermined. For some people, I get that, and to them, but it's not a persuasive argument.
Well, it wasn't meant to be.
Okay.
Yeah, it's not universal, it's personal.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Gotcha.
But I deal with life and death every day, gentlemen. I have to tell people that they're going to be dead in about a month. I see it all day long.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't always work out that way.
Here's the deal. All I know is it's God's plan. I've seen people with stage 1 leave and stage 4 that should have left. There's no rhyme or reason to this shit. You go and your number's called unless you do something stupid.
Well, I don't know, Michael. I know you came in a little late, and we were bringing up this scripture, James 5:15-16, and
Unless you do something stupid. Really?
Yeah, like, take drugs, drink alcohol for, a fair portion of your life, jump off a building, stupid shit. I'm sure you know stupid shit.
No.
You survived childhood, so you must at some level.
How many pills are in your morning breakfast?
There you go.
It's not. Why the judgment, though, is the point. I don't get
It's
that.
not a judgment. I'm sorry you took it that way. It's
Telling
just,
somebody that they do something stupid is a judgment.
well, I'm thinking if you jump in front of a train, I think you can call that stupid. You'd be surprised what people do. Emergency rooms
Yeah,
are.
I get that. I get that. I just have
That's all I'm saying.
yeah.
Ease up. Ease up.
I have a hard time with. I just
Roger.
have a hard time with that. When you're talking about people
Well,
surviving or
listen,
not surviving
you know.
Here's the
illness.
deal. I'm a registered nurse, 30 years in practice. I can only tell you what I've witnessed. End of story.
You know, Eric, yeah, I'm smoking a cigarette. I'm smoking a cigarette right now. If my wife came in here, what do you keep doing? You know, what are you doing? I mean, she doesn't say that. You know, she's. But if someone said, you know, it's a stupid thing. It's not that I don't know it already. Hey, I read it on the box every day.
Yeah.
You know, but it is a dumb thing. It's not really a judgment. It's yeah, you know, I care
I
about you.
think personal opinion shouldn't be
Yeah.
taken so.
Well, I just think that a lot of these things are like addiction, and I don't think people choose to be addicted. I don't think it's it's.
Well, I don't want to get off on that topic.
Okay.
You know?
Okay. All right. All right.
I didn't have a
It
dick mind.
just struck me. It just struck me.
I want to get more back to talking about, you know, prayer and revelations and personal.
I try not to be so easily offended. You know.
It's not that it's offensive. It just struck me. It's
Okay. Let's.
incongruent. Incongruent.
Can we
Could
back
I chime in on the prayer thing?
Yes, please.
I think it's interesting in the Old Testament, if you will.
Oh, your mic is fucking up.
Oh, not again.
Yeah, you're drifting.
Let me turn it down a bit then. That might be overpowering the. Is this any better?
Come on, hey, radio DJ, get a mic here.
Is this any better? Check 1, 2. No.
No, it's just sounds
good, and then it dies out, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You tell me it's not the mic; it's the computer. I don't know. Neo, let me if you know while he's
Is it better?
Okay.
Okay. In the Hebrew, we noticed that okay, one thing I have to establish a little bit of backstory or head story, whatever. Offerings are replaced by prayer. Okay, we don't go to the temple in Jerusalem and make an offering, but when you make an offering in the Old Testament, unless you're giving a Thanksgiving, which is basically bringing a barbecue, that's basically what it is, you know. You don't eat the innards, and you know, and everyone has a feast, and it's a barbecue. But when you bring an offering, it's out of something you did wrong, and it's like when you come home late and with your wife, if you're not sincere and you bring flowers, the flowers don't mean nothing. Same thing with an offering. You have to know why you're offering something, because it's something you did. You don't offer up a goat to save the sickness of another human being. That's nowhere in the Old Testament. It's not like that. You pray to God because you're internalizing a strife within yourself and you're bringing that forward. That's why you have to speak prayer, because it's not about what God knows. Obviously, God knows everything. It's about you going through your own soul, your own workings, the actions that you've done, and coming to terms with your own self before you present that to God and offer that up to Him. And I think that we've in the Western world we stray from the whole idea of what prayer actually is supposed to be about.
You know, I understand the idea like an offering, because it's kind of you're sacrificing something, right? You're giving up something.
Well, yeah, you're paying for what you do. If you have the money, you pay. You bring a bull. If you don't have the money, you bring a goat. If you can't bring a goat, you bring a turtle dove. If you can't bring a turtle dove, bring flour, or bring a limb from a tree. It's about it's an offering, but you're doing it because you know you did wrong, and you can either burn yourself up.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can
Well, I'm gonna be critical here.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna look at the religiosity, I guess, of it. Because could not someone just make an offering and not really be sorrowful? They just, you know.
For like a peace offering, yeah. You walk up and you feel good, and you wanna have a barbecue. You know, you want to contribute, because the priests in the Bible don't make any money. They depend solely on the nation. So if you want to bring, out of thanks, sure, yeah, you can bring a bull, and everybody has a big huge barbecue. barbecue.
No, I
So
think
back
I'm
to-
saying
Yeah.
I think I'm saying is the offering doesn't necessarily equate to sincerity. It seems like why would
If,
yeah.
if you're late coming home and you're not sincere, those flowers you bring for your wife aren't going to help any. Just because you stopped off at the gas station and bought a bouquet of flowers and brought it home to her, sorry, I'm late, honey. Here you go. Oh, does God really want your cow?
Right.
Does
You're
God
just
want your sincere?
go ahead, Preston.
Well, I think that I actually think that the issue is more mindfulness as much as anything else.
Hmm.
What was that? Did I hear somebody whisper something in my ear?
I gave a like yes, like agreed.
No, it's Brother John.
I didn't. You said no. I didn't think I was humming.
Oh, maybe not.
Okay.
Well, I think it's mindfulness in both senses. That the reason why prayer is something that is not supposed to be offered in public places or like in the way that or why there was why it was suggested that it not be offered in public places the way that it often was because
So funny.
there's somebody singing in my ear.
I don't know, Prescott. What's going on? Are you hearing voices in your head? It's like singing in your ear now. Now they're singing.
Okay. Anyway, well, see, I gotta get rid of the.
I'm gonna mute to make sure it's not me. Maybe I'm.
Okay. I apologize. I never wear headphones, but I wanted to put headphones on because I didn't want a lot of. I wanted to be able to have better control of the sound, ambient sound here. Anyway, sorry about that. The mindfulness, like of bringing the offering to the temple in the Old Testament time was a specific sacrifice on the part of the individual bringing it because it stood for his wealth. I mean, not that they didn't have money, but animals that they were largely agrarian culture, and so to be able to essentially bring that, to take the time to bring that offering to the temple meant that it required a very specific energy on the part of the person giving the offering. And later on, when the temple worship was replaced by prayer, the reason why prayer was supposed to be was something that was a separate activity as opposed to, well, I'm just walking down the road. Why can't I pray while I'm walking down the road? I'm driving down the road. Why can't I pray when I'm driving down the road? And some people would say that you can. I would say that in the traditional sense you can't, because the purpose of prayer is about having the kind of mindfulness. I think Eric's talking to his dog.
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Oh, okay. It's
Here, I'll
that,
mute though. I'll mute though if it's.
No. I just.
My dog is talking.
It's only you, Prescott.
My dog talks to me, but only when she wants me to do something really like heinous to the neighbors.
Do you know what I think it is? I think it's like Samuel. Samuel lay down in at night, and he heard this voice speaking to him, and he kept thinking that it was Eli calling him, the high priest, and he kept going to Eli, and Eli eventually told him, "Listen, it's God talking to you. So maybe I better just shut up and listen and see what God is trying to say to me."
Neo, you there?
I'm being.
It sounded the tone of his voice.
Hey, Neo. Hey,
Hey,
You're going to
Neo.
hell. No,
No, you're not going to hell. There is no hell. But anyway,
you're going to Asia.
would you say you have a personal relationship with God or Jesus? And I'll just to reiterate what I meant by personal, in the same sense that you have a personal relationship with your wife, your friends.
No, not in the same sense. I don't have sex with God.
Mary did, but anyway.
No, God had sex with Mary anyway.
All right, I'm not gonna go there.
Nice.
But would you?
God impregnated a married woman. Think about that.
Let's not go there yet.
All right.
God, I know. But
He wasn't married yet.
Even betrothed, you still have to treat her as if she's married.
Yeah, well, that's Judaism. Anyway.
Would you say you have a personal relationship
Yes,
with Jesus or God?
absolutely.
Um, in the same sense as with your friends or family and stuff like that?
No, they don't create everything.
Well, I mean, like in the form of you just
Oh, what's that?
relational, communicating.
Mm,
Is it yeah? Is it a two-way radio personal like James is saying?
radio. Not like a radio, no.
If you're a prophet, then if you say that God talks to you specifically, personally, then in the Old Testament, I have the right to call you out on it and say, well, then provide a miracle. If you don't provide a miracle, you have to be killed.
Oh, I can do that.
But we're not in the land and we're not Jewish, so it's okay.
Well, no, I can do that though. I can provide a miracle. That's for sure.
Well, there you go.
So how do you determine for yourself an answer to prayer? Oh my God, the traffic.
Sounds like airplanes.
No, everybody. It's Sunday, beautiful day, and everybody's on their bikes, and they love to come down this road. You know, so. um,
What was the question? Damn it.
how do you determine any answers to prayer and your communication, your relationship with God? Because what I'm seeing, because it comes down to what was a controversial thing. If anybody remembers the can of soup, praying to a can of soup thing. If anybody remembers that it's yes, no, or not at this time. It always seems to been the answers to prayer. And so if you didn't get what you want, I guess it was no or just not at this time. So how do you determine
Let's say I
definitively,
prayed for a
because it
Lamborghini.
almost seems like it almost seems like God always has this out.
Yeah. I was just saying, I pray for a Lamborghini, it doesn't happen, so I know why I don't deserve a Lamborghini. I don't think anybody really does, but anyway. Satan can give good gifts too. But depends on who and what you're praying for, and if it's in God's will.
Well, now we go back to James 5 again.
Well, actually, it kind of goes back to the premise you started with, and that is the idea that how do you know that the things that you were just saying are true, because they really aren't revelations to you, they are revelations to someone else that you choose to believe, but it's not a revelation that you've had yourself.
Well, do you have personal experience with that?
I do. I prayed and I received something that I prayed for, which is really needed. So.
But does that mean that everything that you believe then is correct? And because like having grown up in the church and been an active evangelical myself, as opposed to the inactive type, that there is a my squirrel's distracting me. Always something distracting me today. What is that?
ADHD.
Maybe that's what it is. But what you have is there are things that you believe, and then a year later, 2 years later, you find that the belief that you had you no longer believe, and some of that is the result of studying the Bible, perhaps, or just life experience, and you come to realize that what you believed is just an impossibility. Now, whether it's the result of Bible study or something that you encountered personally that causes you to change your mind, one way or the other, you have gone from a position of faith in something to faith in something different. And if the faith that is something different is different than what you used to believe in, which is the truth? Because they both simultaneously cannot be true, can they? Like, can you go from saying, for instance, I grew up in the Pentecostal church, so people in the other churches, this like back in the 60s, people in the town from other churches thought Pentecostals were demon-possessed. 20 years later, half of those churches have people in them that are speaking in tongues. So did they suddenly, are they now deceived as well and demon-possessed, or are they now, have they now received some revelation that that is true, or that that experience is true? And if so, then what they believed before was wrong.
Ooh, Tommy's favorite subject, demons.
Demons.
No, I'm not a biblical teacher. I have no idea what demons do and how they do it. From my experience personally, though, I don't think there's any biblical teaching or standard or scientific evidence or anything that's really going to change my position in the future.
Well, I'm not trying to change your
That's
position. I'm asking a question about whether something that you claim to believe today can be influenced by what the Bible teaches, that actually in the future you will actually change your mind and believe that what you believe today is wrong, even though you thought you believed the right thing based on the Bible. And later on you will believe something based on what you read in the Bible that tells you that what you used to believe is wrong. So at what point was that really revelation? Was it the new thing you believed or the old thing you believed? And how do you know that the things that you believe today you're going to believe tomorrow or the day after? The only answer is that you can't.
Yeah, it's just too many variables you're throwing in there.
Well, no, it's just the problem of life in general. I don't know of anybody who's a Christian who believes the same thing 15 years ago that they believe today.
And Neil, I mean, is there, like you say, you're a Christian 5 years? Are there things you believe differently than when you were first a Christian?
Oh yeah, before I believed in evolution fully. I used to study it very closely, and now I don't.
No, I'm saying in the context of Christianity, doctrines or dogmas or, gifts of the Holy Spirit, these other...
I couldn't understand a word of the Bible before I became a Christian. Everybody could tell me about it, and I used to go through a lot of crap, motorcycle accidents, and people would tell me, you should be thankful that God saved your life, and I'd be like, no, I'll be thankful to physics or something like that, but...
replacing one idol with another.
Yeah, right.
Neo, why don't you believe in evolution now and you did before? What is wrong? Wait a second. What is wrong with evolution now that wasn't
hijacked
before?
hangout?
Talk about ADHD.
Yeah.
I can't even remember what Idol said now. I'm trying, I'm sorry, the other guy.
If you guys are unaware, when I do a hangout and I have a topic, I generally try to want to stay on topic for as long as possible, and we can allow for everything else to happen afterwards. Because I find that happens too many times in other hangouts, and hence why I start my own. But
well, you were saying that you believed in evolution before, but you don't now. I was curious what is wrong with evolution now that wasn't then.
All right, Lawrence Krauss. We'll get over this a different day.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
I would simply say because he's believing the Bible now and he believes God created in the beginning, and 6 days.
Yeah, I never believed the Bible anyway. Yeah,
so there, he wasn't a God believer.
Yeah, that's fine.
Now
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think we could say that in a nutshell right there.
I mean, how does one creator create all of this and all that stuff? And why couldn't it just spontaneously crawl out of a pool of soup or whatever? So those are the questions that went through my mind.
Okay.
But Eric, I think you can contribute to this because I think, like Neo, we were bringing up different topics, and I noticed you pulled up a lot of scriptures, different scriptures. I didn't get a chance to read them through. But I think kind of what I see is an issue is this confirmation bias. It's like, okay, I'm going to stand on a scripture for my particular situation, pray, and if it doesn't happen, then I'll find another scripture to confirm the answer. I'm kind of, probably what it is, because.
Yeah, because then you start sounding like a stinking scientist.
No, I'm just throwing scriptures out there anyway. It's.
No, but could this be the case though when it comes to prayer? When it comes to prayer, could this be the case? Do you recognize this or?
See, the thing is that before I was a Christian, I saw prayer work. So, I mean, and I didn't truly believe it worked. But now, after I became a Christian, I start to realize that those things did work.
Do you believe that other people that are not Christians that pray have prayers answered?
Yes or no? Yes or no?
What are they praying to? Who are they praying to?
Their
Doesn't-
God.
But
Their
we're not
made-up
talking
God
about
in
who
their
they're
own
praying
mind?
to. We're talking about, did they have answered prayer? You said before you were even a Christian, you saw prayers answered, yes?
Yeah, through other people to other
Okay.
people, yes.
So that's what I'm asking. I'm asking, do you think that other people from other religions pray?
Oh, now that wasn't the question.
It wasn't?
We changed the question around a little bit. Now we're talking about other religions, quotation marks. So,
Well, what I'm saying is that, do you believe that other people that are not, okay, how about, do you believe that other people that are not Christians can experience or do experience answered prayer?
Lyric said he prayed to Mars. So, uh, other people like atheists do prayer?
Sure.
Atheists pray?
Why not?
I've done it quite a bit, dude.
To Mars, though.
Once I did, yeah.
We gotta put this into context. What are you praying to?
Forget atheists. About other religions.
Okay,
Let's-
no, Tommy, I'll
yeah,
say
let's-
no. No, there we go.
So they don't get answers to prayer.
Hey, Tommy said yes or no, so I just.
Oh, I
Okay.
didn't mean to use that Royism. Oh, no, I was just pointing out that you were being subjected to Royism.
Yeah.
No, he
Forgive me.
wasn't. Not at
Forgive
all.
me for being dramatic.
No.
Oh, shit. Oh,
Not
fuck.
at all.
Shit, fuck, shit. I'm off topic. What is the topic?
I don't know. I don't even know anymore.
Me neither. I'm wanting to know because I want to stay on topic and not talk about Roy or how we can help Roy or how.
You just
All right.
did it.
Now, that's the first time I've ever done that. I kicked him. I really did kick Tommy because I don't know what's his deal today, but I'm sure he'll forgive me like I've forgiven him for kicking me a couple times for no apparent reason. But, yeah.
About Rock Raider.
Oh,
Boy.
boy. I don't know why. I don't know. I don't know.
Why doesn't prayer work for other people?
Well, no, I'm saying there are claims. I mean, other people can make the same claim, right? In like a Hindu, a Muslim, to say that they pray and they got an answer to prayer,
And believe it or not, Jews do too.
and Jews too.
I called out before, dude. I'm an atheist. I called out. It was a moment in my life where I lost control. Anyone would have, you know what I mean? It was a very traumatic moment in my life. And I called out. I just said, help, and it worked. It made me take control of the situation that was at hand, and it got my shit together. I'll say that. And it was a very traumatic thing, life and death circumstance kind of thing. And it did work, and I'm an atheist. I don't necessarily know if it's God or anything like that, or the act of me doing it, or anything. I don't know. I can't explain it, but it did work in that particular instance in my life.
We'd have to ask the disclaimer of who or what you're praying to. Was there no personal thing that you were praying to, or is it just a general prayer to the universe, or to?
Yeah, it was just I had enough. Like, my body couldn't take it anymore, dude. It was gonna shut down.
Yeah. I've been there too, praying to the universe.
Well, my son was like gonna die, so he was like close to death. So it was a traumatic experience.
I think I may know you from somewhere then. But anyway, that's a side subject. I know somebody just like that said the same thing you just said.
So, lyrics, would you say that prayer was answered?
I guess, and like, if a religious person said that, then they would say yes. So I guess I'll say yes. I don't know.
So okay. I mean, I remember you sharing that story with your baby and everything, and to have that, to go through that, cry out to whatever God you were thinking of that, and then for it to, things to turn out turn out well.
Well, it actually
Why
doesn't
not,
sound.
why not believe in a God?
He does, but he doesn't know which one to thank.
Well, or sometimes when people stop fighting and just let go of resistance, it doesn't have to be any kind of intervention. Okay, I'm done, and then we can reset. Letting go of control and letting things reset. That can be physiological as well. That's part of mindfulness.
Okay.
The fear was overwhelming. You know, like shut down overwhelming, like your kid's gonna die. I don't know. You'd had to experience it, you know? Very overwhelming.
When I had cancer, when I had Hodgkin's disease, when I was diagnosed, it was the most sober moment of my life. When I was told that I had a tumor in my chest and they did not know the form of cancer, it was a moment that I remember as being very, very pleasant. Our brains do respond to pressure in ways that aren't necessarily what we would expect. Stress can be overwhelming, and our brain can function as like a circuit breaker. That's what happened, I think, with me. It was too much for me to handle, so I didn't handle it, and my attention went to colors. It was April 30th. It was the first warm evening in Boston that year. I went outside. I remember the sky was kind of purpley because it was dusk. I remember it felt warm. I remember the grass was very green. Things like that. So it's hard to know what is what, but I think that for me, I think that the brain does protect us. It's a survival mechanism, for what it's worth.
AFK for a second.
Could you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
So I guess I'm kind of curious, Lyrics and Eric both, because since I really don't know Lyrics. So you're saying that when you prayed, that the consequence was like personally you suddenly felt relief from the stress and pressure that you were under. Was that the extent of how you saw the answer to prayer, or was there like your child was sick? Do I understand that correctly?
Yeah.
Yeah. And your child is okay now?
Yes, sir.
Oh, now do you connect what the experience that you had with the healing of your child? Or if I'm using wrong terminology, feel free to.
No, but it's very easy for me too. You know what I mean? Like I could tell you that, dude. You know, but I know that it's not. I know what. I can't say what it was that happened. You know what I mean? But it didn't affect the outcome of my son living or dying. The doctors that were working on him did that. You know.
Okay.
But
yeah,
I at one particular point in my life, I would have said yeah, you know, because I was so emotional at that time, dude. Like, yeah, you know, like,
right.
At least it got me through it. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but I don't necessarily put a distinct correlation between those two events. No.
Okay, I just wanted to be clear because I didn't want to make any assumptions about the event because I didn't know how you were looking at all of those.
It just doesn't follow the universe, dude. I mean, the universe from my perspective, like there's a cause and effect to all things, and I was nowhere near my son when this happened, and maybe there's spiritual things that I'm not aware of that I don't know about. You know, maybe a lot of what people talk about is true. You know, and I don't really know about it. But from my experience and perspective, it just didn't seem like it. You know? It could be though, dude. I don't know
It's like
everything.
saying, is there going to be a day when we don't need science anymore?
What? What is science? I mean,
All right, derogatory remarks. Get you nowhere. See
Oh,
ya.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I have a great sense of humor. I just don't.
It was the way you said it. Now, did he leave or did?
No, no. I hope
No,
not.
I didn't kick him.
God did. I prayed for it. Sorry. Sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
What are you holding? What are you holding in your hand?
A spoon?
Oh, you're praying to the spoon god. The spoon god.
The salmon with horseradish sauce.
Well, the wife just got home, and I got to do some yard work and for the rest of the day. But yeah, really. But I did want. I mean, I did want to just touch upon one thing. I mean, to me, it basically comes down. It comes down to faith, doesn't it? I mean, in the end, it comes down to faith. Unfortunately, I see faith in a book. Comes down to our personal experiences and how, like I was sharing earlier, it just seems we can kind of, I think we touched upon a little bit about this before about fear, right? And the big question is always the meaning of life. What's the meaning of life? What's my purpose? And religion serves that, right? It helps alleviate that fear. And fear is powerful, and we'll hold on to the things sometimes to give us that comfort, almost to and that's why I guess when you have these arguments with people in faith and gets very heated, I think it is based on the fear, because they don't want to hear something, don't want to be hurt. I don't want to be told anything otherwise. And this is working for me. It should work for you. And if it works for you also, then I know, in some sense, I can say that it is working. Any thoughts before I close this hangout?
Yeah, I do. Addressing a person's religious beliefs requires them to consider the unknown. And the unknown provokes anxiety. It's vulnerability and anxiety, and it's fear, like you were saying. And courage is when somebody is willing to step into that vulnerability and still function. Be willing to challenge themselves to be present with themselves in that vulnerability. That's more of what I am hoping for in these dialogues than it is to try. I don't want somebody to change their mind. I just want them to be willing to consider what the consequences are of their words to other people when they may not be willing to do what they're expecting of other people, which is step into their vulnerability.
Well said. Anyone else?
Close with which hymn?
I'm sorry, Prescott, what?
What hymn are we closing with today?
Any closing remarks, Prescott?
No, I thought it went quite well. I'm a little disturbed at how I got easily distracted by those noises in my ear. I don't know what that was from.
Maybe we should get that checked out, Prescott.
Go talk to my pastor.
James?
Prescott, are you a Christian?
No.
You were, though.
I'm being sarcastic. I used to be.
He's not any longer. Therefore, he was never a real Christian.
Yeah.
But Idol Smasher, lyrics? Any closing words?
I think we have far more as far as.
Oh, you mic'd again, bro.
Oh, fuck this shit.
It sounds like somebody's tweaking the frequency knob, the mid-range frequency knob.
Yeah.
Every single time, every 5 minutes.
Oh,
There you go again.
The
No.
every
microphone
single
settings
time.
change on Google Plus.
You know what I think it is? I think that once he starts talking and his connection senses this upload,
Yeah.
that it just takes his
It cuts out all the background noise and him as well. It's too high.
well yeah, his bandwidth just drops right out. It just so there's just no way to get any good signal from
Is this any better at all?
Much.
Much better.
Jeez Louise.
All right.
Yeah, I have to change. I'll be on my handheld mic, and then 5 minutes later it doesn't work, and I have to change over to my USB mic, and then that'll mess up, and I have to go change to stereo mix. Yeah, it's nuts.
Well,
This sounds great.
Get your closing comments in quickly.
All right, real quick. Yeah, I believe you can have a personal relationship with the divine. I think that what we have a problem with is when people saying my connection is more worthy than yours, or you don't have a connection and I do, and here's where I stand. It's like, well, then do a miracle. If you don't do a miracle, you're full of crap. Otherwise, you can't really claim that you are having a personal, in other words. But I do think that the human being can look at everything given to them, be it in their mind or in their reality, and learn from it. And I think you can become one with it and learn, grow, and become more aware, mindful, if you will. That's my 2 cents anyway.
Yeah, and I guess that's how I see it. Part of my, and I will call it a faith. I mean, even though I'm not a Christian anymore, many know, I'm more of a pantheistic view, an deist view, but it is a faith. You know, I have no proof, but I feel that awareness, that connection to the universe, call that God if you like. I don't see it in the personal sense, like, you know, God is interested in every little detail. I don't see it like that. So yeah, it's a faith. But with that, I just want to thank you, Eric, Lyrics, Prescott. Good to
Thank
see
you.
you. Idol Smasher, thanks for joining us. Neo, if you're listening out there, thanks for joining us. And Tommy, sorry I kicked you, but you were derailing again after a warning. But anyway, thanks for this. Joining us here on God Talk. I'm going to go off air. You could continue the discussion or whatever you want to talk about afterwards. I'm going to put a link in the event page if you want to join us for off air. And that's it, man. Thanks, everybody, and enjoy your day.